Hi junior hires, I am Paloma. It's going to be a little bit different from me seeing you in person. I miss all your faces and I hope you're having a great summer. I'll be doing a lesson over just a short little 10-minute video on Ruth, and it's only 4 chapters, so I'm going to do my best to focus on the first 2. And you are also welcome to pause and read if you want to look over a verse. You're welcome to do that. I won't even know. And before we get started, I do think that it's important to know the who, when, where, when, and why. And when I was in 2nd grade, I did 4 to 5, I was taught the 4 to 5 W's, and this will help us learn more on what the message is. So, but we won't always know exactly what's precise, because in the Bible, there might be a few kinks where we don't know the author. And in this case, that is how it looks like with Ruth. The author is anonymous, but some people think that that Samuel was perhaps the author, but it's just something to think about. When it actually happened, obviously it was a long time ago, and it was at CA 1000 AC. Which leads me off to my next point, where. We can already get started, and you can turn to chapter 1, verse 1, and just to get a foundation on what's going on, I'll sometimes read a few verses and sometimes I won't. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. So just to keep in mind, as you can see in the back, there's Elimelech, and that's the man that they're talking about. And when you go on to verse 2, they also mention that he has a wife, Naomi, and they come from Bethlehem, so they're Jewish. And they also had 2 sons named Mahlon and Chilion. I probably butchered their names, but it's okay. You can see it in your scripture and try to pronounce it yourselves. And they also had wives named Orpah and Ruth. Now, Elimelech, he unfortunately died, and Naomi was really sad about that. It's whenever a loved one passes away, that can be very hard. And afterwards, they lived in Moab. So just to clarify, they are Jewish and they lived in Bethlehem, but they moved to Moab. And what's interesting is that Orpah and Ruth, they're Moabite women and they're Gentiles. Now, as I said previously, perhaps, in verse 3, Elimelech, he is Naomi's husband and he passed away. Afterwards, the Moabite women also lived with their husbands for 10 years, and they also unfortunately passed away too. And Naomi was really sad, and she wanted the best for her daughter-in-laws. So she advised them that they should go back to their homes so that they can perhaps find a husband. And in that time, women had to be protected. It was a little bit different from nowadays. So Naomi, she made a great point that as she gave her advice to her daughter-in-laws to go back to their families, in verse 11, she says, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up?" So I thought she was pretty savage. She just wanted to look out for them. And they wept some more, and Orpah finally listened and she went back home. But Ruth, she was a little bit different, and she wanted to stay with Naomi. She said, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." So when she says, "Your people be my people," keep in mind she is not Jewish, she's from a different country, and she is a Gentile. So afterwards, they decided to go to Bethlehem because God gave aid and there was food. So they were on their way, and when they came back, everyone was talking. A lot of times when a person hasn't seen another person for a long time, there's a little bit of talk. So they were like, "Can that be Naomi?" But Naomi was so sad that she said, "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me, the Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Okay, so now we can go on to chapter 2. And there's a new character. His name is Boaz. And this guy, he's very respected and wealthy. He has property, of course. And in verse 1, it explains that he's a relative on Naomi's husband's side. So he comes from the clan of Elimelech. And Ruth is a person who's very hardworking, and she wanted to go into the fields. So she asked permission from Naomi if she could. And when she gained that permission, she happened to go to the fields of Boaz. Now, once he returned from Bethlehem, he greeted all the harvesters, and they said, well, he first said, the Lord be with you. And they replied, "The Lord bless you." And he was intrigued by a particularly young woman, and when he asked the harvester, he replied that it was Naomi, Naomi's daughter-in-law. So she was wondering if she could stay, and she asked, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters." And glean is just collect. And when he saw this, he replied, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here." And he suggested to be with his servant girls. And that was a really good thing, because for a young girl or young woman to be alone, that's not the safest thing. And we should actually do that and implement that in our own lives too. Ruth also thought that why would someone find favor in her, and also because she's a foreigner. But Boaz was honest with her and said that he's seen the qualities, that she was willing to take care of her mother-in-law, and how much she worked. It's more that he took notice of her. Afterwards, she came back and then told Naomi about what has happened, and she thought that that was wonderful, and especially because someone that she trusts. And she also agreed with Boaz's statement that Ruth should stay with the servants. And I guess that wraps up chapter 2, and we can continue on with the story in the next video.